Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to share with you a story about a 17th century Mughal emperor. His name was Shah Jahan, and he built Taj Mahal, which is one of the 7 wonders of the world. For more information about Shah Jahan, please view the video entitled Zaybun Nisa. A guy came to Shah Jahan's court and said, "Your Majesty, I'll be forever grateful if you would give me a job." Shah Jahan said, "The only job I have at this time is available in the royal poultry farm." The guy said, "Your Majesty, I'll take it." So the guy was appointed as the manager of the royal poultry farm. A while later, Shah Jahan was reviewing the budget and he noticed that the poultry production had been doubled and the expenditure on feed for the poultry had been reduced to 0. Shah Jahan summoned the manager of the poultry farm and said, "How did you do it?" He said, "Your Majesty, it was very simple. All the scrapings from the royal kitchen were dumped into the trash and good money was spent to buy grain to feed the poultry. I started feeding the scrapings to the birds and stopped spending money on the grains." Shah Jahan said, "Good man. What do you like?" He said, "Your Majesty, I like books." So Shah Jahan appointed him as the assistant librarian. A while later, Shah Jahan happened to go to the library and handed a list of the books he wanted to the librarian. The librarian started going through the lists of books, Library of Congress, Dewey Decimal, whatever system of listing the books existed at that time. The assistant librarian was standing at attention, very respectful, but not helping his boss. Shah Jahan got very angry with him. He said, "Why aren't you helping your boss?" He said, "Your Majesty, I'll be happy to help my boss." He took the list from the librarian and took a card and started putting books from different shelves on the card without ever consulting any lists. In a very short time, he had a card full of books and he brought it to His Majesty. His Majesty said, "Very good," and appointed him as the librarian. Librarian in the Mughal emperor's court had a very important position, important enough to be granted a seat in the court. So he became a courtier. A while later, Shah Jahan happened to return to the library and noticed that every single book in the library was plush-coated. He said to the librarian in a very sarcastic manner, "How did you do it this time, Mr. Economist?" The librarian simply handed a copy of the library's budget to His Majesty and pointed out that there was no increase in the library's budget. Shah Jahan said, "Okay, tell me, what did you do this time?" The guy said, "All the gifts that came for Your Majesty from across the globe were plush covered. That covering was removed from the gifts before they were presented to you, Your Majesty, and the plush covering was thrown into the warehouses. I taught my staff how to make book covers out of that plush, and told them that when they had spare time while they were on the job, they should be making those book covers and putting them on the books. Shah Jahan was very pleased. Time passed, and after a while a messenger came from the king of Iran with a message for Shah Jahan. The message was opened and it said, "What right do you have to call yourself Shah Jahan, which means the king of the world? You are only the king of India. Either change your name to king of India or provide me with a satisfactory answer to my question." All the courtiers got busy trying their level best to come up with the answer, with the exception of the librarian. He just sat in his seat and twiddled his thumbs. His Majesty once again got very angry with him, and he said, "Why aren't you helping?" He said, "Your Majesty, I know the answer to the question. However, with your permission and promise not to be reprimanded, I would like to put a condition on my providing the answer." His Majesty said, "Both the wishes granted." "Speak." He said, "Your Majesty, I'll write down the answer on a piece of paper, put it in an envelope and seal the envelope. Nobody in your entire kingdom, not even you yourself, will read the answer. It has to be sent sealed the way I hand to you to the Shah of Iran." Shah Jahan agreed, and the message was sent to the king of Iran. In as much time as it took the messenger to get back to Iran and then return to India, he was back with another message. The message read, "If the person who answered my question is not your prime minister," Wazir, they used to call him Wazir, "if the person who wrote the answer to my question is not your prime minister, please send him over as my prime minister." So Shah Jahan appointed the guy as the prime minister of India, which made him the second most important person in the entire country, which at that time was a whole subcontinent, the whole subcontinent of what is now called Indo-Pak subcontinent. Now the question is, what was the answer he wrote? The answer he wrote was that calling himself Shah Jahan was the birthright of Shah Jahan. There used to be a system of naming monarchs, and this system, I believe, was used also at times by the British monarchy. What you do is, you take the digits of the date of the birth, digits of the date of birth of a person, and equate those digits to equivalent alphabets through an established system which goes like Abjadahu Vajahutti Kalaman Safas. So if you take the date of birth of Shah Jahan and find the equivalent alphabets for that date, the set of alphabets that results can be used to call him either King of India or the King of the world. Of course, the prudent choice was to call himself the King of the world. I thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for your attention to my presentation. Have a good day and goodbye.